Hi there, welcome. This is Jo with C&J Goods, and I have my lovely assistant again.
Hello.
This is Frankie. We're going to be making some sketchbooks today. We're going to go with something themed because we're both nerdy video game players. Here are some examples of ones I've done before. Frankie has never had the opportunity. Nope. So we're just going to do the same kind of simple binding as these. Now, this isn't a pattern or anything. I learned this at a bookbinding workshop. I just wanted something fun to do because sometimes it just gets a little too serious. Here's the basic binding on all of these books. We've got the leather is actually underneath the stitching here, and this is what's keeping the leaves together in a nice way. And then we've got a nice hard back, and the paper is glued in there, and you can sort of see the stitching underneath there. These are all along the same lines. You can see the shadow of the leather underneath from the binding on these guys, and it's pretty clear here because I actually brought it out of this cover leather and had it come all the way through, and I actually made it so this is a snap close sketchbook. We basically cut these pages down in half, and you can see with Frankie's we left a little bit of a soft edge there from the tear versus cutting it earlier, which is called a bone folder. Okay, and this is great for if you want to get a nice sharp edge. You're going to run it along like that after you folded it.
Oh, I see.
And then you can just sort of smooth out by rolling it. And that's that little roller part here.
Gotcha.
And this is good for flipping out, fabric if you want to get it in the corner and things like that. Your job is to go, what the hell is a key?
Well, yeah, that was going to be my question exactly. What is a key?
All right, so this is going to tell us where we're punching our holes for the binding. All right, so in each leaf, we're going to shove this in and punch holes. Then this is just nice heavy cardstock that I had knocking around. I thought about using it for the boards on the covers, but we don't need it for that. Okay, so we need to figure out how many holes we're going to punch in the bindings of these, because we're going to be sewing these together, basically. You were talking about running two pieces of, where did the pencil go? How did I lose pencil? Oh, there. So you were talking about doing a pretty basic book, and then we're going to be stitching in various places, right? We talked about doing 2 strips of visible binding, sort of like this one.
Yep.
Going up and over the top, right? You only want to do 2.
Right.
Okay. So what we need to do is figure out how many stitches we need. So we're going to do from the inside and the top and bottom. Okay. That's these. All right. And then we're going to need 2 more stitches over those. So this is going to go in and out. And in and out. Okay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes.
Okay. All right. On each side. Or is it just?
You're gonna be punching 6 holes into this.
Okay.
All right. So we're using our key to figure out how many holes we're gonna punch. So the next step with this is we're going to punch our holes in the leaves. And I have handy dandy awl. We could be using other sharp implements like a safety pin or whatever. That was handy, but since we have the awl, we're going to use that. So I'm going to take one of my leaves, go right in the middle, put my key so it's lined up with that edge there. Okay, this is just overhang. I'm going to take the awl and I'm going to go in at a little bit of an angle. If I don't do it at the right angle, it's going to poke sideways out of the paper and it won't go through all the leaf and come out the top of the edge.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is a little finicky and you're just not going to get it right all the time. So don't panic. There's all sorts of fancy bookbinding tools that replicate this part. You make this part of the process easier. So I'm going to do some nice decent sized holes.
So that's what little nicks
so
before?
those nicks are so you have a guide
Mm-hmm.
for your awl. And if I've done this right, I've come right out the edge.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you go ahead and do yours. For the next part of this process, we're going to make our boards for the covers. I'm just going to pull the lovely corded backing off of the sketchbook. And I've got one for myself. Reduce, reuse,
Yes.
recycle, right? That was one of those. Okay. So, our books are two different sizes, so we're not going to just have the same size boards. One of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you leave some room around your paper so it's not going to get damaged if it gets thrown in a bag or whatever. If you look on this, even that's got a little overhang. You can sort of see it from the top to the bottom. And a little bit here too, on the front. So you're going to do something you're going to be comfortable with spacing-wise, but you don't want to be like, this much more extra around, because then you're like really working to get at the paper on the inside. Now you're going to take one of your strips of leather and you're going to put it inside the next stitch. So you're going to go over it into the book. A little cheat. I'm just only gonna do one more
For
side.
you other rookies out
Well,
there.
it's a cheat. You want to use a really low stick masking tape because you don't want to rip the paper in your sketchbook. You don't want to leave a lot of residue on your leather. And I'm only going to do it on one side, and I'll show you why in a second.
Through.
See how I've got only about like 3 or 4 inches there? Enough that I can tie it off here. So now you're ready to add the next leaf. You know, slide it underneath all those and get it ready. And you're going to take that needle and guess what? You go right down to the next section. Okay.
So I came out from this end.
Right.
So do I?
You're gonna, because you're
start from this.
Yes, you're gonna put it in there.
Okay.
See how I've got that bind right there?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I'm gonna come up the middle of the next. So you're gonna. So I went from right to left. Now I'm going from left to right.
Got it.
So what you're gonna do now over this piece of leather, make sure you do this, is you're gonna So that it's coming out on this side, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna cross this like that.
Okay.
Just once. And then go in the middle.
Got it.
And so every time you come to a parallel stitch on another piece of leather, you're gonna do that. Alright, and then tug your threads so they're a little tight. Both of these ends that are here. So it's sitting nice and snug in the paper and not bouncing up. Okay. And then you're going to tie those in a knot. That's when you leave that little tail out.
Just one knot is fine?
But do a double knot. You're basically binding that rather permanently, so you don't want it to come undone. You're gonna take the needle and go through the one next to it before you add the new one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you go through and get to the end there, you make sure you grab that too.
Gotcha.
Alright, and that binds the ends together. The leather we have for you is this really soft, very thin piece. This is like garment weight.
Mm-hmm.
You could use this on a jacket and line it and it still wouldn't feel very heavy. And you wanted to do the soft side out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's gonna have that little bit of texture. Now, fortunately this is really soft and I don't think we're gonna need to do anything to treat it so that it'll stick well with the glue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing. So the way that the cover is gonna work is because this is so thin, we're gonna get that Triforce worked in there really good so you can see it.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we'll get the clips off. All right. Buff out.
Yeah.
It's the soft side.
Suede.
Okay. And then, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna get this sheet, and I want you to put a contact sheet underneath here,
Okay.
so that you don't end up gluing your pages together.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Please. Yeah.
And then you're gonna glue like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this page will permanently be stuck.
Okay.
All right. And that also helps it bind and keep the binding in there. Because if for some reason the glue gave up on these, the whole page is keeping the book together.
Gotcha.
So you get a nice embossing, and that's the foam there. So if you get it squished in your bag, it won't be too bad, it'll recover. You got your spine exposed. I'm vaguely concerned about this, but we're not really gonna super worry about it. If you had gotten these stitches a little bit the same tension, it would look amazing. But you did a great job, honestly. For your first book, you can't ask for better than that.
Epic.
There you go. And then there's Frankie's again, all finished. That little bit of that hint of the Triforce logo. Thanks for joining us today.